Hey everybody, welcome to a lesson here at THSS Technology. Today's going to be a pretty big lesson. We're going to talk about how to have our enemies march along our path using a navigation agent. But a few additional things I've added since we had our last lesson here. You'll notice I have an enemy spawn node here. This is just a node 2D. And then what I did here was inside of my main script, I dragged in our enemy spawn location, which is this right up here. I called enemy spawn loc. And then down here, our enemy's position is equal to our enemy spawn location's dot position. That way, whenever we are making a new map, we can just go in and adjust wherever our enemy spawns, and it'll be live updates. Pretty handy. One more thing I added as well is the ability so you can't build multiple towers on the same space. Okay, so here in our tile map here, we created a variable called occupied, and we create a dictionary from it. That's what these little squiggly brackets for. So we're going to make a blank dictionary that's going to store whether or not our tiles that we're clicking in have been occupied. Okay, and then in the unhandled input, we've been through all this before. Here's our buildable. We did this last week. And then we go a little bit further, we have a spawns the tower, okay? So what we're gonna do is when you spawn the tower, it's gonna take occupied and checking to see if cell clicked has been added to it, and he's gonna mark our occupied into true, okay? And then we have an if statement up here, so we're saying if the occupied dictionary has cell clicked inside the dictionary, then it's not going to let you build the tower. It's going to say tower here already, and it's going to return back to the top. However, if occupied does not have cell click stored in it, it's going to instantiate our tower as you normally do, and then it's going to put cell clicked into that occupied dictionary, right? So this code will just be up here. You can pause the video if you want to kind of add that into there, but that's a nice little handy feature for controlling whether or not you can build multiple towers onto the same space. Anyways, like I said, we're going to add a walkable path today for our enemies. So our enemies are going to walk our little path here as they kind of go through, and then they'll just despawn when they get to the end. So we're getting pretty close now for you to be able to actually build your game and actually start making it fun and playable. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is here on the main scene, we're going to press Shift A. Let's bring this window to our main screen here. And we're going to make a navigation region 2D. Okay. And I'm going to rename that, and we're going to call this, I don't know, what should we call it here? I might just call it nav region, nice and straightforward. Okay, so we've made a nav region over here. Okay, now what we're going to do is up here, we're going to add some points to our nav region. So let's go to my selection tool, go to the point selection there, and then we're just going to, oh, no, first thing we have to do over here is we have to assign a new navigation polygon. Perfect. Okay, now we can go over here and we can start to create our navigation region. And essentially all we're doing is we are just drawing a path here that our enemies are going to be able to walk into. Just like that. So we're going to seal it up, and then we're going to bake that navigation polygon. So now we've created a navigatable region inside of our map that eventually, by the end of today's lesson, our enemies are going to walk into. Perfect. So that makes sense. And okay, that is looking pretty good. Now let's go over to our enemy scene now. And on our enemy scene, we're going to type navigation again, and we're going to add a navigation agent 2D. The navigation agents navigate the navigation region. So you put an agent on what you want to move, and you put the region on the areas that you want the agent to move onto. Okay, so let's add that navigation agent. Perfect. That looks good. And we can even just call it enemy nav or something along those lines. You can kind of name your things whatever you would like, of course. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a goal point for our enemy to get to. Our goal point will be here at the end, and we'll create it very much like we did with our enemy spawn location. So let's just make a node 2D, okay? And we're just gonna call this, hit F2 to rename, enemy, we've got a caps locks on, enemy goal. Okay, so we got our enemy goal point here. It's over here, and let's put our enemy goal kind of right there at the end of our scene, but still inside of our main window there. Perfect, okay. All right, I think we're all looking good here. Now let's head over to our our main scene here in terms of our script. Okay. All right. So now let's start building our main scene out so we can kind of get ready. So in my enemy stuff here, I'm going to grab my enemy goal, hold down control, drag that in. Let's just make this proper camel casing there. Okay. So we have an on ready for an enemy goal. So now we can access that inside of our script. Okay. Looking good. And then let's scroll down here to the bottom. Okay. And then underneath here, we're going to do is we're going to say enemy. Is that what I called my? Yeah. So enemy.set target. Okay, now we haven't talked about set target yet. This is going to be a custom function that we're going to write inside of our enemies, but we're going to do enemy set target, and then we're going to say the target is our enemy goals dot position. Okay, now this isn't going to do anything. It's not giving us any errors, of course, right? But essentially it's going to take your enemy, okay? We've established what the enemy is right up here. It's what we are instantiating from the enemy spawn. And we're going to set its target to the enemy goal's position. What's the enemy goal? Well, we created the enemy goal up here. However, we haven't addressed the set target yet. That we're going to do inside of our enemy script, okay? So we are grabbing our enemy, which remember is our enemy spawn. And remember, our enemy spawn is we are preloading that enemy scene, and then we are going to grab a function that we're going to create in our enemy scene, which we're going to call set target, and we're going to set its target equal to the enemy goal's position. Okay, I know it's a lot, it's kind of confusing, but let's kind of work our way towards that now. So we're going to go to our enemy scene here. So here's my enemy code, very basic now. Here's the old way we used to be moving our enemy, and I'm actually just going to comment this out now. I'm going to keep it in there for now because I might come back later and use that again, but let's kind of get going. So first thing we're going to do is let's just pass this out for now just to get rid of the errors. We're going to take our enemy navigator and make it accessible by our script. So I'm going to grab it with left click, hold down control, drag that in, and let's just camel case that, make it a little bit easier there. Okay, so now we can access our enemy navigation system, right? Which remember, it's just our navigation agent 2D. Okay. Now, let's make that function that we talked about there. What function? We're going to make this set target function. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to declare the function as a function. We're going to call it set target, which is the name that we used in the other script. Okay, and in our thing, we're going to make it, give it a target position. Okay, target position, and then we're going to make that equal to a vector 2. Okay, so it's going to look for some XY coordinates here. And we can just, let's just finish that off properly. And we can just pass that out here. Okay. So what we got here is we are setting the target. The target position is going to be in a vector 2 there. Okay, looking good here. Okay, and we're passing it out right now, but let's put something in there. Okay, so let's do our enemy nav in here. And we're going to say our target position is equal to our target, which we're posting right in there. Okay, target position is just something that the enemy navs, the navigation 2Ds rely on. So it's going to grab the target position, which we're setting to this variable in here. What's this? Well, it is this here, our enemy goals position. Okay, so the target is going to be set to a vector 2 that we're establishing down right in here. Okay, a little confusing, but play around with it and you can kind of see what we can do there. Okay, so let's go into our actual function now. Okay, I'm going to start off just by doing if our so for enemy nav is navigation finished. So if your navigation is finished, so you've reached your target position, what do you want to happen? Well, I want to do something called queue free. Queue free just deletes the object. So if your enemy navigation system is finished, meaning it has reached its goal, we're going to erase it and return back up to the top. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we've got rid of the thing where we are removing our enemy when it kind of reaches the end. We'll change this later, of course. So when the navigation is finished, instead of doing a queue free, we'll actually have removed some of your players' live systems. So that's kind of our goal that we'll be working towards there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called next position. And this is where your enemy is going to be going next when it kind of reaches position. This next position will be our enemy navigation and get next path position. Okay. So the next position, when we use this variable, it's going to grab your navigation 2D and it's going to issue the command get your next path position. Okay, we're going to create another variable called direction. This is the direction we're moving, of course. And our direction is going to be our next position minus, and we're going to get global position, which is your current position of it, okay? And then we're going to do something called normalized. What's normalized? Well, this enables, if you don't normalize your movement, when you start moving at diagonals, you'll move a lot quicker just because you're moving one to the right and one to the up. And so your speed on a diagonal actually goes considerably faster, 1.5 times faster than it would if you're going straight. Don't stress it too much, but we want to normalize our movements in order to ensure that you're getting smooth, consistent speed, and you're not moving faster when you're moving on a diagonal. And that would kind of, wreck the game there. And then we're going to set our velocity, and this is just a Godot command here. And our velocity is going to be equal to our direction times our enemy speed. Okay, not enemy nav, enemy speed. Enemy speed declared kind of up there at the top. And then finally, whenever we are doing any type of moving, we're going to do something called move and slide, which will allow you to move properly with the physics system. Okay. All right, that should work. Let's do a quick little test here. I can place my towers. I can't place another one because it says tower here already. And here comes moment of truth. Will our enemies follow the path? Indeed. So our enemies are following the path here. They're moving at a consistent speed, even when they move diagonal, because you see they're moving diagonal here. You can always try taking off that normalized so you can see the difference in the speed movement when they're moving on a diagonal there. And let's just do a quick little check to ensure that they are indeed queuing free when they reach the end of the path. Now, the nice thing about the system that we created is that you can very easily adapt it for any single map that you are making in the game. So whenever you're making new paths, you don't have to change any of the code. All you have to do is change that nav mesh and bake it in. Oh, and as you can see, our enemies are deleting and erasing themselves when they get to the end. Perfect. Okay, well, that was a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to come see me down in the tech lab and we can help you out with that. Hope you found that useful, and we'll see you all later.